If I'm gonna die or ever be a sacrifice, I want to make sure that my life made at least 5 million kids happy. All right, let's say worst thing comes to worst, I die a tragic death or some shit.
XXXTentacion's final recording before his death just dropped, and it's chilling in it. He talks about dying young, almost like he knew it was coming. But that's not all. The rapper also made some shocking revelations that are changing how people see his death. Let's get into it. The prophecy that shook hip-hop. XXXTentacion was tragically shot and killed during an apparent robbery in Deerfield Beach, Florida, at the age of 20. But here's where it gets crazy. Just hours before he got bodied, this cat posted an Instagram live video that had everyone calling it prophetic. Now, before we get into the specifics of this final recording, let me break down why XXXTentacion was such a big deal in the first place. This wasn't just some regular rapper trying to make it out the hood. Nah, X was a whole different breed, a genre-bending artist who was pioneering the SoundCloud rap and emo rap genres. The young king was mixing trap with rock, emo with hip-hop, creating sounds that nobody had ever heard before.
I came up off like a lot of artists. Like I would go from all of that, like from rock to rap to literally Japanese instrumentals, like different Japanese songs. Like I was completely and utterly mesmerized by music.
That versatility, that raw emotional connection, that's what separated X from all these other cats in the game. He wasn't just rapping about money, cars, and chains, though he could do that too. This dude was speaking directly to the pain, the depression, the mental health struggles that so many young people in the hood were going through, but nobody wanted to talk about. But let's get back to that final recording, because this is where things get really wild. So check it. On June 18th, 2018, just hours before X got killed, he drops this Instagram live video. And in this approximately 1-minute clip, he's talking to his fans about some deep prophetic type stuff that'll give you chills when you really break it down.
All right, let's say worst thing comes to worst, I die a tragic death or some shit, and I'm not able to see out my dreams. I at least want to know that the kids perceived my message and were able to make something of themselves.
In this video, X expressed a desire for his music and message to make at least 5 million kids happy or help them find answers, regardless of the negativity surrounding his name. But it wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it, like he knew something was coming.
If I'm gonna die or ever be a sacrifice, I want to make sure that my life made at least 5 million kids happy.
The young king was talking about legacy, about how he wanted to be remembered if something happened to him. He urged fans not to let depression define them, emphasizing that their soul should guide their body and that their mind is limitless. This wasn't no regular motivational speech. This was a man speaking from his heart like he was. Running out of time. Now here's the part that really got people in their feelings. The video was posted approximately 2 hours before the incident. 2 hours, y'all. This wasn't some old footage that got recycled. This was fresh content, posted the same day he got murdered. The timing alone is enough to make you think this wasn't no coincidence. But when you really listen to what X was saying in that video, it becomes even more eerie. He encouraged dreaming big and pursuing those dreams with strength, expressing love and belief in his followers, almost like he was giving them his final words of wisdom. Now I know some of y'all might be thinking, man, this just coincidence. Rappers always talking about death and legacy. And you know what? Y'all might have a point. Hip-hop has always had this relationship with mortality, from Biggie to Pac to so many others who spoke about their own deaths before they happened. But here's what made X's situation different. This wasn't just some throwaway bar in a song or some casual comment in an interview. This was a deliberate, focused message to his fans, posted just hours before he got killed. The specificity of it, the timing of it, the emotional weight of it, all of that combined created something that hit different. And let's be real about the context here. X wasn't living in some safe suburban bubble. His upbringing was marked by instability, trauma, and family challenges, and he'd been dealing with serious legal issues. The streets were watching him, and he knew it. Due to his mother's financial struggles, he was primarily raised by his grandmother, Colette Jones, in Pompano Beach in Lauderhill, Florida. This wasn't no silver spoon situation. X came from the trenches, and he understood how dangerous his lifestyle was. Plus, let's not forget about his legal troubles. At the time of his death, X was facing 15 felony charges, including aggravated battery of a pregnant woman, domestic battery by strangulation, and witness tampering. He was out on bail, released from house arrest just months before his death to allow him to tour. So when this young king posts a video talking about his legacy and what he wants to be remembered for just hours before he gets murdered, that ain't just coincidence, fam. That's a man who understood the reality of his situation and was trying to leave something meaningful behind. But here's where it gets even crazier. The impact of this final recording. See, after X got killed, this video didn't just disappear into the internet void. Nah, this joint started circulating everywhere, getting shared millions of times, becoming this haunting reminder of what we lost. Fans and media outlets have highlighted its emotional weight, noting that it provides a glimpse into into his mindset and aspirations. It became more than just a social media post. It became a testament, a final message from a young king who knew his time was running out. The final recording really indeed changed everything. It changed how people viewed X's death, how they understood his mindset in those final hours, and how they interpreted his artistic legacy. This wasn't just a random robbery gone wrong. This was the silencing of a voice that was trying to speak truth to power, trying to heal a generation that was hurting. And let's keep it 100. X's influence on the culture was already massive before he died. His music resonated with millions, particularly millennials and Generation Z, with 75% of these groups aware of him and 65% holding a positive view. But that final recording, that took his legacy to another level entirely. Up next, we are going to break down exactly what happened on that fatal day, how X's prophetic words came true in the most tragic way possible, and why his killers thought they could get away with murdering one of hip-hop's brightest stars. The street justice that followed, that's a whole different story, and it's one that shows just how deep X's impact really was. The day everything changed, from prophecy to tragedy. All right, y'all, now we about to get into the real nitty-gritty of what went down on June 18th, 2018. Let me set the scene for you. XXXTentacion had visited a bank to withdraw $50,000 in cash, which he carried in a Louis Vuitton bag. Now, some of y'all might be asking, why the hell was this dude walking around with 50 bands in cash? But if you know anything about how young rappers move, especially cats from the hood, you know that having liquid cash is just part of the lifestyle. After hitting the bank, X rolled up to Riva Motorsports, this upscale motorcycle and watercraft dealership in Deerfield Beach, Florida. He was looking at motorcycles, probably thinking about copping something fresh for the summer. This was supposed to be a regular day. Get some money, look at some bikes, maybe make some music later. Just another day in the life of a young king living his dream. But somebody else had different plans for XXXTentacion that day. See, while X was inside the dealership checking out motorcycles, 4 dudes in a dark-colored Dodge Journey SUV were watching him, planning something that would change hip-hop forever. Now here's where the story gets real crazy, because this wasn't no random robbery. The group, consisting of Dedrick Williams, Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen, had been planning armed robberies that day. They weren't specifically targeting X at first. They were just looking for a lick, any lick they could find. But then they spotted X at the dealership. They recognized him at the dealership, likely due to his distinctive appearance and vehicle, and decided to target him for the cash he was carrying. This is where everything went left, because these cats thought they could rob a high-profile artist and just walk away like nothing happened.
Real street don't respect a lot of rappers. Real street don't respect rap niggas like that, unless you like that. I don't hope niggas think if you be a gangster, if you be a rapper, that turns you into a gangster just because you rapping gangster.
Boozy hit the nail on the head with that observation. See, a lot of cats in the streets don't view rappers as real threats. They see them as easy targets, rich, usually not heavily protected, and often carrying large amounts of cash. It's a dangerous mindset that's gotten too many artists hurt or killed. So as X is trying to leave Riva Motorsports, these 4 dudes make their move. The sequence of events, as established by court proceedings and surveillance footage, shows his black BMW was blocked by the dark-colored Dodge Journey SUV. What happened next was caught on camera, and let me tell you, that footage is haunting. 2 masked gunmen, identified as Michael Boatwright and Trayvon Newsom, approached Onfroy's vehicle. Boatwright, the primary shooter, fired multiple shots at Onfroy, striking him in the neck and chest. Now, here's something that really gets me heated about this whole situation. X's uncle, Leonard Kerr, was with him in the car, but managed to escape when the shooting started. Can you imagine the trauma that man went through? Watching your nephew get murdered right in front of you and not being able to do nothing about it? The assailants stole the Louis Vuitton bag containing the cash and fled the scene. Just like that, for $50,000, they took the life of one of hip-hop's most innovative young artists. X was rushed to Broward Health North Hospital, but it was too late. The damage was already done. The same voice that had just hours earlier been talking about making 5 million kids happy, about not letting depression define you, about pursuing your dreams with strength. That voice was silenced forever. And here's the part that really shows how senseless this whole thing was. The group had been planning multiple robberies that day. This wasn't some personal vendetta against X, some industry beef gone wrong, or some deep conspiracy. This was just 4 dudes looking for easy money who happened to spot a famous rapper with a bag full of cash.
From your point of view, right? Explain to me why someone would rob a high-profile person and expect to get away with it, and be prepared to kill the person in the process and expect to get away with it.
Oh, you just got some. When you in that lifestyle, it's whoever. A lick is a lick, and a rapper is a sweet lick. Cause a lot think rappers ain't gangsters nowhere.
But these cats clearly didn't think through the consequences of their actions. See, when you hurt somebody with X's level of fame and influence, you're not just dealing with local police trying to solve another street crime. Nah, you're dealing with federal resources, massive media attention, and the full weight of the justice system coming down on your head. The investigation that followed was massive, with surveillance footage, cell phone data, and witness testimony all pointing to the 4 suspects. These dudes thought they were slick, but they left a digital trail a mile long. Robert Allen, who was the lookout in the operation, eventually flipped and told everything. In August 2022, Allen pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and robbery with a firearm in exchange for testifying against the others. His testimony detailed exactly how the whole thing went down, from the planning to the execution to the aftermath. According to Allen's testimony, after they killed X and stole the money, the cash was split, with Boatwright, Newsom, and Williams each receiving $15,000 and Allen $5,000, $15,000 each. That's what they thought X's life was worth.
And then, you know, is natural life worth how much? What was it, 30 G's? 40 G's?
15 G's each, 15,000 each.
Tony Yayo broke it down perfectly. These cats threw their entire lives away for 15 bands each. When you really think about it, that's not even enough money to buy a decent used car, and they willing to commit murder for it. But here's where X's final recording becomes even more significant. Remember, just hours before this happened, he was talking about his legacy, about wanting to help kids, about not letting depression win. It's like he knew his time was running out and wanted to make sure his message got out there before it was too late. The video is often described as eerie or prophetic because XXXTentacion spoke about dying young, a prediction that tragically came true. But it wasn't just the prediction aspect that made it powerful. It was the hope, the positivity, the genuine care for his fans that came through in his voice. That final recording changed everything because it showed us who X really was underneath all the controversy and legal troubles. It showed us a young man who, despite his flaws and mistakes, genuinely wanted to make a positive impact on the world. And knowing that those were essentially his last words to his fans, that hits different, real different. Up next, dive into the aftermath of X's death, how his killers got caught and what happened to them, and why that final recording continues to haunt and inspire people to this day. The justice that was served, let's just say the streets have a long memory. And so does the legal system. Justice served and the eternal impact of X's final words. The way justice played out for XXXTentacion's killers is something that should serve as a warning to anyone thinking about touching hip-hop artists. These cats learned the hard way that when you mess with someone who got millions of fans worldwide, the consequences go way deeper than just local street beef. So after X got murdered on June 18th, 2018, law enforcement didn't waste no time. The investigation was swift and thorough, because when a high-profile artist gets killed in broad daylight, every resource gets thrown at solving that case. These wasn't no regular street dudes who could disappear into the hood and never be found. Nah, these cats left evidence everywhere. Authorities swiftly arrested the suspects. Dedrick Devonshea Williams, 22, was arrested on June 20th, 2018, charged with dangerous and depraved first-degree murder, robbery with a firearm, and operating a vehicle without a valid driver's license. 2 days after they killed X, this dude was already in custody. That's how fast the wheels of justice moved when you mess with the wrong person. The other 3, Robert Allen, Michael Boatwright, and Trayvon Newsom, got scooped up in the following months. All 4 were indicted by a grand jury on premeditated murder charges, reflecting the planned nature of the crime. The state wasn't playing around. They went for the maximum charges possible. But here's where it gets interesting. Robert Allen, who was basically the lookout during the robbery, realized real quick that he was in over his head. On August 12, 2022, Robert Allen pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and robbery with a firearm as part of a plea deal. He flipped on his co-defendants and told everything. Now, some cats in the streets might call Allen a snitch, but let's keep it real. When you're looking at life in prison, for helping to kill somebody over $15,000, you're gonna try to save yourself too. Allen's testimony became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, and it painted a detailed picture of exactly how X's murder went down. The trial itself was something else. The trial commenced on February 7th, 2023 in Florida's 17th Judicial Circuit, presided over by Circuit Judge Michael Usan. The prosecution came with everything: surveillance footage, DNA evidence, cell phone data, and Allen's detailed testimony.
Apparently, when the guys went out to the murder vehicle, the murder truck, to lie in wait for these people, they waited in the truck for like 8 minutes, 35 seconds. So she's giving her closing arguments in the trial, and she's telling them about this and how, you know, premeditation works, and you're sitting there and you're planning and you're waiting, you're thinking about this, you know you're going to do it, it's intentional.
Tony Yayo described one of the most powerful moments in the trial. The prosecutor made the jury sit in complete silence for 8 minutes and 35 seconds, the exact amount of time these cats sat in their car planning X's murder. Can you imagine how that felt in that courtroom? 8.5 minutes of pure silence, thinking about how these dudes had that much time to change their minds, to walk away, to not destroy multiple lives over some money. The prosecution built a robust case using surveillance footage from Riva Motorsports that captured the robbery and shooting, cell phone data with location data and Bluetooth connections that linked the defendants' phones to the crime scene, and DNA evidence where forensic analysts testified that DNA on masks found at the scene matched the defendants. The defense tried everything they could think of. They even tried to bring Drake into the case, claiming that X's beef with the Toronto rapper somehow played a role in his death. But the judge ruled there was no evidence of Drake's involvement, dismissing the defense's attempts to introduce conspiracy theories.
Right.
You have his attorney.
He's been saying. He's saying that he killed XXXTentacion because of Drake. Because Drake.
No, listen. You have the attorney saying a lot of things, right? Me personally, I don't think that's Drake's style.
Even Whack 100, who knows the industry inside and out, called that defense strategy bogus. When you got surveillance footage, DNA evidence, and eyewitness testimony, trying to blame Drake just makes you look desperate. On March 20th, 2023, the verdict came down, and it was swift and decisive. Boatwright, Williams, and Newsom were convicted of first-degree murder and armed robbery. The jury didn't buy none of their excuses or conspiracy theories. The sentencing was even more brutal. On April 6th, 2023, Judge U.S. Ann sentenced the 3 convicted defendants. Michael Boatwright, 28, got 2 consecutive life sentences without parole for first-degree murder and armed robbery, plus 30 years for probation violations. Dedrick Williams, 26, and Trayvon Newsom, 24, both got life imprisonment without parole.
Let's just say they're all 25 years old and they live to the age of 65. You know what I mean? They pass away at the age of 65. They're going to be in jail for 40 years. That $15,000 breaks down to $375 a year for the rest of their life.
Tony Yayo broke down the math, and it's devastating when you really think about it. These cats are going to spend the rest of their natural lives in prison for $375 a year. That's less than what some people spend on a phone bill every month. Robert Allen, who cooperated with the prosecution, got a much lighter sentence. On May 17, 2023, he was sentenced to 7 years in prison, with credit for approximately 5 years served, resulting in 2 additional years of incarceration, followed by 20 years of probation. He was actually released early in October 2023. But here's where it gets real about prison politics.
Life is over, nigga. Nobody want to do that. A lot of my rather be dead than do life.
These cats ain't just dealing with being locked up forever. They got to worry about X's fans who might be locked up with them.
Think about a dude that grew up listening to XXXTentacion. Now his killer is right here eating lunch next to you.
That's the reality they facing every single day for the rest of their lives. X had millions of fans, and some of those fans are definitely going to be in the prison system. These dudes basically made themselves targets for the rest of their lives. But let's get back to why X's final recording continues to be so significant. See, after his death, that Instagram live video took on a whole new meaning. It wasn't just a social media post anymore. It became his final message to the world, his last words to his fans, his prophecy of what was about to happen. The phrase "changes everything" in the query likely refers to how this recording reshapes perceptions of his death, portraying him as a reflective and hopeful artist despite his controversial past. That video showed a side of X that a lot of people never got to see, the side that cared about his fans, that wanted to inspire kids, that was fighting his own demons but still trying to spread positivity.
Hell of a loss at someone that I felt was nowhere near his height.
People thought he was scratching the surface, but he was only showing not even 5% of what he could really do.
Wife's Funeral, who was one of X's closest friends, really captured the tragedy of what we lost. X was just getting started, just beginning to tap into his full potential as an artist and as a person. That final recording gives us a glimpse of the man he was becoming, someone who wanted to use his platform to help others, to spread love and positivity despite all the darkness he'd experienced. The impact of that video continues to resonate today. X's last Instagram post before his death is the 11th most liked post on the platform, with 32.5 million likes as of February 2024. Millions of people still go back and watch that final recording, still find inspiration in his words, still feel connected to his message. And let's keep it 100. X's influence on hip-hop culture didn't die with him. His genre-blending style and emotional authenticity have influenced a wide range of artists like Billie Eilish, Juice WRLD, Kendrick Lamar, Lil Nas X, Trippie Redd, and Kanye West. That emo rap sound that he pioneered, that's everywhere now, and it all traces back to what X was doing.
I meant it at the the time, in the sense that I see them as very similar figures, in the sense that, like, when I think about Pac, he seemed like he was just so open and just feeling everything and just constantly just like releasing his emotions on you through his music and his interviews and whatever. And I got a lot of that same thing from X, that I felt like the fans were just overwhelmingly dedicated to him because he was just feeling shit. Like, he was so emotional and he was just so out there presenting himself to you.
Adam22 made the comparison to Tupac. And honestly, when you think about the impact both artists had on their generations, the comparison makes sense. Both were young, both were controversial, both spoke truth about pain and struggle, and both left us way too early. But here's what makes X's final recording so powerful. It shows us that even in his darkest moments, even knowing that he might not be long for this world, he was still thinking about his fans, still trying to spread positivity, still fighting to make a difference. That's the real legacy of XXXTentacion. Not the controversy, not the legal troubles, but the genuine desire to help others heal from the same pain he was going through. That final recording changed everything because it reminded us that behind all the headlines and drama, X was just a young man trying to figure out life, trying to use his voice to help others, trying to leave something positive behind. And in those final hours, knowing what was coming, he chose to spread love instead of hate, hope instead of despair. That's why his killers getting life in prison feels like justice. They didn't just take a life, they silenced a voice that was trying to heal a generation. They cut short a story that was just beginning, a legacy that could have changed millions of lives for the better. But X's final words live on, and they continue to change everything for everyone who hears them. That's the real power of that last recording. It's not just a prophecy of his death, it's a testament to the impact one person can have when they choose love over hate, hope over despair, and helping others over helping themselves. If you enjoyed this video, check out our other awesome videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.